Good morning. I guess we're all hoping that winter will come soon so that we can probably find some sort of bottom to stabilize the oil prices here in Texas and in Houston. You know, there's nothing wrong with a good cold winter to get things going, and so we keep adjusting our expectations of, well, $80 oil, we can live with that. 70, you know, now we're at 60. And so emotionally, we're kind of going with the flow to see. Unfortunately, every week we're having to adjust. Houston, we went a couple of years ago from the best city in America to the coolest city in America, and now this year we're the best city for job growth and one of the top 10 cities for relocation, which is a great acknowledgement to have, and that sends the message to all of these companies from out of state, which is why we're all so busy right now. For the past few years, I seem to have lucked out on my predictions. In the single tenant industrial business that we're in, 80% of our buildings were in the last couple of years were pre-leased. We came out of the recession strong in 2012, and of course, 2 years later, we're in a big construction boom for industrial, most of which is spoken for. Luckily, I haven't been too off track in the past. For 2015, I predict that things will continue. Houston is going to be watched nationally. Today's headline in the Chronicle, talked about the oil price with a big question mark, and so we're starting to get calls. I'm sure everyone is just kind of monitoring that. So Houston, everybody's going to be watching us to see how we're affected, especially in the industrial sector. Economic drivers, the energy sector, as mentioned before, accounts for over 50% of the employment in the city. That is going to affect us directly and indirectly. The good news is, the interesting thing is that the energy sector is divided into two parts in Houston. You have the upstream and the downstream. So as it was described to me, the west side of town kind of makes its living on high oil prices. However, the east side of town makes its living on low oil prices. So when you think about the petrochemical plants and all of that, they're going to be building and in a boom. So fortunately in Houston, we have a counterbalance that will help drive, and so we may have a few people, may need to build a few more office buildings on the east side of town in the next few years. Another key driver, as mentioned before, is our jobs that we have created. We become a job-creating machine. The interesting thing is a lot of the country is just now getting back to equilibrium of the jobs they lost during the last recession. Houston, on the other hand, we are the #1 city in the country for job creation. The percentage of jobs recovered in Houston versus the other top 10 metro areas in the nation, we have recovered 230% of our jobs lost during the recession, 230%. And this year, we will increase that by another 78%, putting us at a 300% job recovery of the jobs we lost in the country. And that's what's really driving the 107,000 new jobs that give us, we had a 3.9% increase in the last 12 months, August to August. Just a brief snapshot of the industrial market. There's 532 million square feet of industrial in the city of Houston. There's 6.3 million square feet under construction, which is a good, healthy percentage for that. Supply is still trailing demand as tenants are migrating to new buildings. We'll have a steady flow in 2015. It'll be slowed down somewhat, but there's really, because we have a lack of overhang in our industrial space right here, we're just where we should be to weather whatever might come in the next 12 months. The vacancy rate, last year we were 5.4% vacant. This year it's 4.8%, so you can see that's improved. In the flex products, which is a smaller percentage of the overall total, we're 7.1%. Last year was 9.4%. So you can see that even with the new construction, that we're able to improve our numbers year after year. Absorption, the overall net absorption through the third quarter of this year was 2.9 million square feet. Tenants are moving into large blocks of space similar to in the office sector. HD Supply Holdings is moving into 500,000 feet at Greens Crossing. B&G Foods is moving into 267,000 feet in in DC Airtex Industrial Park. Our supply and demand ratio has fluctuated, but because of the high demand, we're in good shape. There's been a high demand for crane serve buildings, which is our niche in the single tenant world, just due to the oil and gas sector and all the different functions relating to that. There are no, if you want a crane serve building in Houston, there's not one. You have to lease one that's under construction or to be built. Pretty much every crane serve building in town is full. And so we should be able to maintain that going forward. Another project, the Aldi Distribution Center, that's down in Rosenberg, 650,000 square feet. They're going to add 150 new jobs in that Rosenberg market. Last year we talked about the Grand Parkway and the impact of that, as was mentioned by some of the guys here today. The completion of segment E of the Grand Parkway has really brought many businesses to the Katy area. Geico had announced plans in December 2013 for an office call center in Mason Creek. They'll employ about 1,000 workers there. Chevron has acquired land on the Grand Parkway for a research park. We're starting to hear rumors of all the majors looking for campus-style settings, and the only place there's big chunks of raw land is in this new segment E. Segments F1, F2, and G currently under construction and will be completed by late 2015. So literally before we turn around, a huge segment of the Grand Parkway is going to be open. And if you follow Google Earth, it's going to, you can see there's just loads of land up there, and it's really going to cause a boom and a new dynamic shift for the industrial. On the sales side, the first 6 months of the year, there were 21 industrial sale transactions totaling 141 million. The largest of that was 1 million square feet that sold for $86 million in January. As Cassie mentioned before, the largest sale and biggest deal of the year just recently closed. That's Cedar Crossing, purchased by Trans Global Solutions with 15,000 acres. World's 5th largest industrial park and the largest on the Gulf Coast. It's home to Walmart Distribution Center, Home Depot Distribution Center. And yet the park still remains 65% undeveloped. As Cassie mentioned, our host this morning, that's probably how they're paying for the breakfast, we're represented the buyer in that huge transaction. So congratulations to the team. Another big sale this year was the Mesa Real Estate Partners portfolio, 75 fully leased single-tenant industrial buildings, 80% located in Texas, 2.5 million square feet, sold for just under $300 million. Cap rates have covered a wide range, as shown on the slide earlier. Cap rates are very compressed. Have become very compressed in a lot of sectors, including the industrial sector. Last year, we averaged 7.82% cap in the average industrial sector. This year, the average has dropped to 7.57%. And if you have a fully leased industrial building that you're trying to buy in this market now, I would challenge you to find something at 7 cap or above in this market. Oil, we wake up every day talking about the price of oil and all of that. It's because of the shale play, Houston grew from 2009. Houston grew from 1.1 million barrels of oil production in the state to 3.4 million barrels of oil. So that's a huge increase in production, and that's probably what's gotten the Saudis a little bit concerned about our ability to domestically produce that. Various rumors that Saudi Arabia's keeping their volume up to keep the price of oil, to lower the price of oil, to weaken Russia and ISIS and others like that. I think they may want to maybe send us a message here in Texas that it's not all, that we can't just take 100% of the market, but this day will pass. If you look at the past prices of oil, it's been a yo-yo. But Saudis can produce oil at $20 a barrel, which is a totally different deal than us fracking in West Texas. The good news is you can't take the oil anywhere, so whether we produce it now or later, it's still here. It's still here in our state. This chart shows the price of oil adjusted for inflation, because you always hear about $2 barrel oil, $4 barrel oil, but this shows adjusted for inflation. The interesting thing that I didn't realize is that from 1946 to 1974, the price of oil pretty much adjusted for inflation stayed around $21 a barrel. And so you can see how the price of oil for that many years just pretty much stayed flat. So what we've experienced since '74 is an anomaly to what the oil business was up until that point. It peaked in 1979 at $116 a barrel, and then as we all know, in 1986, it went down, adjusted for inflation, to $22 again. And then in 1990, $60, and let's not forget that in 1999 it got down to $16. So it's not that far, not too far in the rearview mirror that it was at $16. Peaked again in 2008 at $134 a barrel, and bottomed out in 2010 at $36 a barrel. So literally 4 years ago, it was at $36. I seem to have forgotten that. I think we all have. But and now, high of 105 in 2012, and this morning $60.94, which is a 5-year low. But it demonstrates to me that this is a temporary condition with the backlog that everyone has here in town. We should be able to drift through this, and it's just natural that it's going to have to adjust. As I mentioned last year, Exxon and Qatar are planning a huge LNG export terminal in Sabine Pass. That's a $10 billion investment. All of that's being designed and planned and built and staged out of Houston. So that's good news for our market. We've continued to be a good logistics hub with second busiest port in the world, major international airport, rails. A lot of what they're going to do in Cedar Crossing is they're going to lay a lot of track for rail storage. I mean, it's a huge issue in the industry that when cars are empty or full, you have to put them somewhere until they're full and do something. So that's a big big growth area that will continue to go. Panama Canal, I've mentioned for the last couple of years, had to slide the completion date a few times, but now 2016, the canal will be finished. We've been a major port. We're the largest waterborne freight tonnage, export port. This canal is going to do nothing but bring in more opportunity to Houston, especially the export of compressed LNG. And that's the new thing, is that LNG was always thought to be kind of a domestic thing. Now these big LNG ships can load up here with compressed LNG and go through the Panama Canal to all parts of the world. So that's really going to help our Houston market and the port. Eagle Ford Shale, we all followed that. It's been a huge boon. When they talk about the cutback in jobs in oil and gas, a lot of those are going to be out in the field, and so Houston is going to feel a lot less of that than other parts of the state if production, say in the Eagle Ford Shale, slows down. So it's not good for Texas, but at least for Houston, it's going to have a reduced impact. Permian Basin, I keep hearing is going to be the largest ever. I keep hearing of places I never heard of in Texas that are going to be the largest reserves ever. That's always good to hear. Somehow I haven't been able to sneak up on any of that, so I'm always reading about it when it's too late. Houston area alone produces 50% of the state's total production right now, 13% of the U.S. capacity. So we're really a spur for infrastructure, for the whole country, which means that we're going to continue to see your midstream kind of developments, because you got to get the stuff distributed around, and there's a good living here to be made in Houston in doing that. In conclusion, as we approach 2015, the industrial sector of Houston still looks resilient. We're not over our skis at all. We will continue to have job growth, as mentioned before. Even a reduction in our job growth is better than any place else in the country. So we really have a lot to be thankful for. The Panama Canal is in sight now. It's back on track and will be opening up, and that should be exciting things for Houston. The only thing that's affected the big factor in our business is land cost. In the past 3 years, land costs for industrial development have doubled. And so that is a new dynamic that we've had to deal with, and that has affected rates. And of course, it makes all the existing product we have look a lot better, which is always good. We need a little inflation now and then, but land costs, as in other sectors, sure it's those retail guys running the land price up for the rest of us. So, but that's all right. We really, they've had a rough go, and with their 300 million backlog. So I predict that we will be steady as she goes for the industrial in 2015. We're going to be watched daily on the price of oil, and every morning we have conversations about what if, and emotionally and mentally we kind of adjust to wherever things go. But I think we're used to that here in Houston, and we'll work ourselves through it. Thank you very much.